let's continue on here. So there's a second segment here. I thought what we would do is look at this article here. So up on your screen is an article from a website, kaises.com. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. It's longer than 2 to 3 letters. So, oh well. Anyway, it's called A Nerd-Eyed View. This is a professional site, meaning that the target market is for other persons like me, financial professionals. I generally would say, and of the ones with this as the target market, make no mistake, this is probably, at the very top end of interesting articles, kinda. Okay, so by no means do I think that this person is, ill-equipped or ill-informed by any means. Our opinions, however, will be different in certain instances, and you will see it here in this article. Okay, so this is an article from 2013. It is, as a result, it is dated. It is dated. And of course, that should be obvious. It is not 2013. The reason that it's important, and the reason I'm talking about this article, there are going to be a couple of reasons. The first of those reasons is that it is not good. It's not a good idea to take a dated article like this as your reference point. And the reason for that is that the sellers are competing. They're highly motivated to compete. Okay? Highly motivated. And yes, in this particular area, long-term care, you can understand why, right? They're the entire basis of why I wrote Maximize Your Medicare. Demographic reality tells you that the audience is going to be big. And so even if a limited percentage, read books and then, et cetera, et cetera. So just put on your common sense hat, you will get it. And in the same sense, you can presume that the long-term care insurance, life insurance companies have also innovated. Okay. So as a result, what ends up happening is this particular phrase, this particular sentence here says that life insurance plus long-term care is frequently guaranteed. Now, however, that is not necessarily the case, because as new entrants have come into the market, carrier number 1 may have been, carrier number 2, carrier number 3, carrier number 4. Well, each variable, each moving part moves by definition. So as a result, what ends up happening is that what was true in the past, 2013, is no longer true today. It's no longer true today. So that's the first one. The second one actually, so this one though is just a thing of the fact that the article is old. Okay, that part I don't really mind, right? I mean, that's just the evolution of time. The world changed, the market changed. Oh yeah, by the way, there's this new thing inside car, they're called airbags. Right? Innovation occurs. So you need to be sensitive to that. It's just, another example. The second one, however, in this article is here. And what goes on here is this person, the author of the article, is actually criticizing the way the returns inside of policies actually work. This is subtle. There's a reason for it being in the subscription service, right? Because this is actually pretty bad. This is not a good part of this article. Because what they're criticizing is the fact that, let's just say you pay $100 a month for a hybrid long-term care life insurance policy. Some of that 100 goes to what I call reserve pot, and that's the cash value. And his point is, inside this cash value, you're accreting at a rate that is lower than interest-bearing markets. Meaning, you could have gotten better in the bond market. You could have gotten better in the junk bond market, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And that's the point he's trying to make, which is you pay the 100, X dollars comes to my reserve pot, and the value inside this reserve pot isn't very good because the rate of interest stinks. This is a common method that whenever you look at the financial press, what you'll see are, this or that isn't great. And then you get this excerpt. You get an excerpt, you get a snippet. These two separate objectives. Trying to get both objectives at the same time? Bad idea. Even worse is this article, which says, because if he had proposed that, then you overcome the objection that has occurred over here. What happens is that everyday people, they say, oh, I saw this little snippet, so I'm going to forget buying ducks, even though that may have been entirely appropriate and entirely something that you wanted to do with your money. Let's end it here.
Okay, take 4. So basically what I'm saying by this article, the summary here, is the fact that because of its dated nature, 2013, some of the features have been adjusted. Competitors have arrived. The athlete is bigger, stronger, faster over time, right? Airbags have been created. Evolution. That's not that serious. It does give you the idea, however, that you need to not presume that everything has stayed the same. Competitors are there and they're innovating, and that is largely in the buyer's favor. Largely in the buyer's favor. Not overwhelmingly, largely. Second is I don't like the way that it compares things, because the basis of comparison is like me criticizing the fact that, that player doesn't play wide receiver. Yeah, he's 6'4", 265. He's the world's best outside linebacker. He's not here to play wide receiver. Why are we trying to consider this? And what is better in the far preferred approach is, okay, that's a wide receiver. I have a limited budget under the salary cap to pay for wide receiver. Now let's consider, because maybe I don't need tier 1 wide receiver. Maybe I can still do the job with tier 3 receiver, but I need a wide receiver. If you have decided for yourself, hey, I need a wide receiver, then you check out the market price and then you decide. What this article does, and it's a bit dangerous, is what it just says is, okay, that guy is that 6'4", 265 who can run a 4.7, 40-yard dash. He's not a very good wide receiver. That for me is, like I said, bordering dangerous, because what ends up happening is you, the buyer, and the reader glosses over it and just focuses on the fact that, hey, he's not a very good wide receiver. Or, that wasn't his function. His function was to be linebacker. I'm sure I've screwed the positioning up. But you understand my point, is that long-term care insurance is for a particular reason. And if you're trying to determine whether or not it fits, you then say, here's what its function is. I need it or I want it and I don't, yes or no. And then you proceed to check out the price, and then you then say, okay, does it fit inside the salary cap? Not just, oh, that guy's 6'4", 265 and only runs a 4.7. Yeah, he's outside linebacker, right? If you want that, you spend money on an outside linebacker. Don't call it a wide receiver. Okay. And we see this in other other forms, right? I'm creating, these silly analogies, and I, please forgive me if you find them to be dumb, which is to basically so that you can understand what I generally say, which is that, a lot of the information you're given in the press mixes up ducks and wide receivers and outside linebackers. When I take away the fact that and saying, look, forget the blinders, the mind freeze of the fact that we're talking about something financial, and now all of a sudden you use football, it's like obvious. Now it's very, very clear, right? In other words, a football watcher doesn't make this mistake. We cross off football and put in financial terms, and now it's people like freak out. Anyway, the important thing and the last thing, and the real reason for this extra segment that I added, you can see I've got this different backdrop, I got different clothes on, it's a different day, is that let's say now you're paying $100 for refrigerator extended warranty. Okay, and that's not the real price. It's for illustrative purposes. What is not anywhere in the financial press, I've never seen this in the financial press, is the fact that some of this $100 is not only for the refrigerator. It's not only for the refrigerator. But the reality is it's for the fact that something can go wrong with the refrigerator at the same time that you need a new roof. You go, Jay, those are unrelated. And that's fair. That's absolutely fair. That, an asteroid hitting your roof is not the same type of risk as something fritzing out in your freezer. Agreed. I agree with that. But the issue is that if both things go wrong, you'll be stuck in a place which would be so costly at precisely the wrong time, then it creates a problem. At that time, it creates a problem. Not when just the refrigerator goes down, not when just the roof collapses, but when both happen at the same time, now you're in scramble mode. This, and for that, some of the premium that you're paying, it's not worth it. I didn't get from my insurance, is because people have forgotten. And by forgotten, what I mean is people haven't been told, informed, described as here today, that no, reality is that some of that price that you're paying for the refrigerator extended warranty is actually for this extra function, which is to hedge correlation, i.e. two things going wrong at the same time. You wouldn't be alone here. You wouldn't be alone here. The reality is if you look at financial calamity, housing crisis, great financial crisis, .com, Russia default. In other words, the big items that have gone wrong in financial markets, the ones that have gripped the entire globe at once, those actually can be summarized. The common thread is not that one thing went wrong, but the multiple things going wrong at the same time. The last thing here is that the reason this has become so dangerous is the fact that there's no single contract to hedge the combination. We've got lots of contracts to hedge the refrigerator problem. We've got lots of sellers of roof insurance. We don't have any sellers of the combination of refrigerator and roof protection. In the same way, in the banking crisis or a great financial crisis, you had the same type of thing. which is you had high unemployment, systematic banking problem. They looked separate. They were actually linked, and there was no way to hedge them both at the same time. In the same way, at the household level, the same risk, the same exposure, and unfortunately what ends up happening, and what all of these points that I've just made to financial professionals, and you'll forgive me, right? But what I'm calling professionals from my, counterparts at my level, were basically is just the simple phrase of there's no hedge for correlation, and the nod would begin. And if your financial advisor doesn't know what that phrase means, I'm worried for you. But the issue here is that even at the global scale, this happens. At the household scale, certainly happens, right? And you can see this. Spouse loses job. Spouse number 2 gets sick without proper insurance. Now you see it. That part of the function for the health insurance wasn't only because, your Jabba the Hutt weighing 900 pounds, 3'5". That is, while that's the one with the headlines, the reality is some of that pay was of the premium of the health insurance is to take into a fact that, because the assumption was, well, the other spouse has an income. Yeah, but what happens if those two at the same time don't go your way? That's the point. And for that, some of the health insurance premium should be considered as hedge against correlation. Let's stop here for today.